Well, as Australian households brace themselves for the arrival of the next electricity bill, Chris Bowen is off to Egypt to talk about global warming. He's joining 90 heads of state and 30,000 delegates at the COP27 conference to solve the problem of climate change. So while the battlers in the mortgage belt worry about how they're going to make ends meet, Bowen is off to tell the world he wants to turn Australia into a global energy superpower. He plans to install 22,000 solar panels a day, every day for the next 8 years. He also wants to put in 40 wind turbines a month, every month for the next 8 years, each one taller than the Sydney Harbour Bridge. On top of that, the government's going to pick up part of the tab for the 10,000 kilometres of new transmission lines. That's right, 10,000 kilometres. That's enough poles and wires to link Sydney to Perth, Melbourne to Darwin and Adelaide to Townsville with a few hundred kilometres to spare. All that, Mr. Bowen insists, will make energy cheaper.
We will continue to implement the policies we took to the election, which are all about getting more renewables into the system because they reduce emissions, yes, but also, Sarah, because they are the cheapest form of energy. More renewable energy means that energy prices are lower than they otherwise would be.
Well, those of us who are old enough to have paid energy bills for longer than, say, 10 minutes know that's just not true. The more wind and solar generation introduced to the system, the faster electricity prices rise. This graph shows the historical growth in renewable energy in Australia, measured in petajoules from 1980 to the present day, with projections to the next 2 years to 2024. Wind turbines and solar panels, as you can see, began to be introduced early this century under the Howard government, but the serious investment in renewable energy began in 2008 under Kevin Rudd's Labor government, when Rudd introduced a renewable energy target of 20% by 2020. The renewable energy dollars rolled in. Over the next 6 years of Rudd's government, the amount of renewable energy generated in Australia doubled, which meant that Australia electricity prices must have got cheaper, right? Not exactly. The red line on this graph is the price in the retail price of electricity measured in September each year by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Now, as you can see, between 1980 and the introduction of renewable energy, prices went up in dollar terms, but actually they were going down because they were slightly lower than inflation, making electricity in real terms cheaper. Now, all that changes during the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd years between 2007 and 2013. Energy costs doubled. They increased 5 times faster than inflation. Businesses and families were hurting, and Julia Gillard's decision to introduce a carbon tax was the final straw for voters. Well, 40 years of experience then tells us that renewable energy isn't cheaper than hydrocarbons. It's actually far more expensive. The iron law of electricity bills is that whenever and wherever renewable energy is added to the grid, the price paid by consumers goes up. Prices go up not by a little, but by a lot. And just to add to this terrible bargain, the energy grid becomes less reliable and less resilient.